No, I'm actually living in the street. I worked at a temp most of my life and made a partial income, but not a full income, so I live on part of the minimum wage a large part of the time. It's pretty difficult living to live on $50 or $100 a week or less, and for people to be able to promote themselves and their interests, they have to come out and vote, and they have to show signs of taking an interest in things like unemployment. Often in Oklahoma, they tried to eliminate unemployment, tried to eliminate workmen's compensation, tried to curtail or limit food stamps and so forth, and people can't survive without those margins of safety. So it's important for people to express themselves in order to stay alive and stay healthy.
Several times a year we have a special initiative to get out to different places other than our clinic to register people to vote. And these are a lot of our clients here that access the health care for the homeless. And so we have 3 of these scheduled, June, July, and August, and before the big election. And it's because a lot of people have heard about the big election, and so we have more people that are interested in the political process. And so they need to know how their vote can count, how their voice can count in the state elections and the federal election.
Well, first of all, I tell them it's important because every vote does count, and that whether they believe it or not, even as they are in this situation, at being homeless, it does not matter. They have a voice.
People say that they want to vote for this because he's going to bring jobs, or that she's going to do this, or so they're paying attention to the campaign promises. And the TV's on all day long here, so they get the news. They read the newspaper every day. They're at the library accessing CNN and all the news websites, so people know what's going on for the most part.
If the issues about homelessness and about the needs of homeless people, if they're to be addressed, then you need someone with compassion, whether it's in the state or the White House, to know that there are other people out here that are basically living day by day, hour by hour, and that they have to have their voices heard, and they have to exercise that right.
Actually, day to day, people don't see it as a high priority, but overall, in a year's time, there are a lot of significant changes happen politically, and it's important to keep people's benefits or their allowances for either rights or privileges. These days, it's a popular sport to argue whether it's a privilege or a right to have various aspects of their protections continued, and it can change and swing overnight. A single Supreme Court decision can swing the entire political process, so it's important for people to express themselves.
Probably about half of the people here don't want to vote because they don't feel like anybody cares, because they feel like part of the situation is, and some of the things that have brought them to this point, some of them realize that their own personal issues may have brought them, but some of the things that they need to get them out of homelessness are not there. And so I speak from the standpoint of someone that have been homeless, lived on the street for 3 years with my children, and I tell them there is still hope.
Well, I think they provide the perspective, especially in this state, of what the effects of the state cuts have been on poor people, and some of the cuts that are coming down that affect them. And they'll feel more of those coming up July 1st in the state budget cuts. And so they need to have a voice in that about whether they get help or not in these particular areas, especially in mental health and substance abuse issues.
It reminds me that you get to a point that you feel like nobody is listening. And so what I'm telling them, as a mother, I was a single mother with 3 children on the street, and I felt like I was at my end. But someone kept encouraging me, kept motivating me, kept telling me that there is something greater ahead for you. And so that's why I'm here. I'm giving back. And I know it's not much, but to be able to say to them, register to vote, give them a hug, and tell them there is a brighter day coming.
You don't need a permanent address to vote, to register to vote. There are actually 2 lines on the voter registration form. One of the lines is a mailing address where the election board does need to have a mailing address because they have to mail the voter registration card to a particular address. But if they're sleeping out or in a camp, they can give the cross streets of where their camp is to put them in the right precinct for them to vote within their district. So there's actually a map on here that shows for the election board to decide which precinct that they need to be in if they're on the streets. The mailing address is just for the voter registration card. It is not for the actual residence of where you're voting from.
People being angry, showing Trump as a popular lead-in for people's hostility. It's important for people to show their point of reference one way or the other, either hostile or constructive, and to show that they have an interest in solving problems or just being angry. I mean, there's various points of reference for voting and not voting. I knew a lot of people that didn't vote all throughout their lifetimes, and their hostility shows, and it's a valuable vote margin piece of information, but voting makes a difference.